blanching.com, and by viewer request I'm going to do a video on how I blanch and preserve greens, how I freeze them. This only takes a few minutes. I'm going to try to make the video as short as I can to try to emphasize that point. This time of year you get more beans than, if you're growing beans, especially bush beans, you're getting more beans than you can possibly eat. So, you know, we basically have enough beans to eat beans every day, but we don't necessarily want to do that, so we freeze some. Now, blanching is a technique where you immerse whatever the vegetable is in some salted boiling water for a minute or two, and then you take them out and you dump it in a cold bath and stop the cooking process. And the reason you want to do that is it preserves the color, the texture, and the flavor of the vegetable, better than just cutting it up and putting it in a freezer. Every time I do a video like this, people say, I just freeze it. Yeah, but if you take a few minutes to blanch it and then freeze it, man, what a difference. And also the technique I'm going to show you here is a way to preserve it so that you freeze it and it can all go in a bag and you can just take it out as you need it, just the way like when you buy frozen peas or frozen beans from a grocery store, you know, it's in a plastic bag and you can just, it's not all frozen in a clump, it's all nice and loose. So I'm going to show you that technique, how to get to that point. It's ridiculously easy. So you start with your beans, right? You got a whole bunch of fresh beans from your garden, and you got to take the little ends off. And you know, these are the sort of tedious things that people say, oh, I don't have time for gardening, it's too hard, I can't do the work. This stuff doesn't take long, especially once you get good at it. You know, I've done all of them off camera. I just thought I'd do a couple here. What I do is I take about 3 or 4 in my hand. I just hold the ends in this hand. You just do like 4. It's about how many I can hold in my right hand. Right? 1, 2. Once you get going, it takes seconds. So I mean, this whole batch of beans here, I did it in about, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, so these are done. And by the magic of camera, so are these, right? So I got a whole bunch of beans ready to go now. Now, normally if I was doing this and I wasn't filming it, while I'm taking the ends off of these and washing them, which takes about 2 or 3 minutes, I have my water heating up. The water's been heating up. Everything's all ready to go for this film here. So all we got to do now is cut them up. They're gonna, again, the whole point of these is to freeze them and put them in a bag or a container. So you want them to fit well. So I just cut them into, you know, about 1 inch or slightly larger pieces. Just manageable size pieces is what you want. They just pack better that way. And that way also when you want to cook with them later on, they're already cut and ready to go. So it saves time at the other end. I'm hoping the amount, I'm just eyeballing this, but I think the amount I've got here will fit in the saucepan. People use pots to blanch, but I find like a wide, flat-bottomed saucepan, it's just got more surface area to pick up heat from the burner, so it's faster. But if you're trying to heat water, the wider as long as your burner is wide, the wider the pot is, the faster it's going to heat up. So I mean, I use saucepans for everything. It's just faster. Alright, so you get the idea. You cut these up in small pieces. So I'll finish this off and let's go to the water over here. Alright, so here we are with the pan, and we got some, I already added some salt, but just, you know, add a good, like a dash, like maybe half a teaspoon or so, give or take, to the water. That helps really improve the color, and it's an essential part of the blanching process, salting the water a little bit. So then we just put these in. Hopefully I got the right amount of water for this amount of beans. Looks good. Okay, so I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes and put a lid on. See you in 2 minutes. Okay, so we're done here. So that was 3 minutes. I can't remember if I said 2 minutes or 3 minutes when before I turned the camera off, but that was 3 minutes. If you have a whole lot of water, you can probably do it for 2 minutes, but when you've got sort of an equal volume of water to bean ratio. You probably need a little bit more time because the mass of the beans reduces the temperature of the water. Anyway, it's boiling now, and that's all you need. Okay, so the beans are done, and now I'm going to stop them cooking. So first I'm going to do is strain off the boiling water. Strainer here. Let's give them a shake. Put them back in the pan so we don't make a mess. Now I'm going to put these in a cold bath, right? So I got some cold water here. Just dump them in the cold water. That'll stop them from cooking, so they'll be nice and they'll still be crisp and crunchy and all that sort of stuff when you defrost them and cook them later. You can tell because the water goes from being cold to lukewarm, which is about where you want it. You can strain it again and add some more cold water too if you want. Okay, so I gave that 2 more cold baths just to cool it down. Now it's cool to the touch, and that's the way you want it. The reason the bath is so much more important than the just running cold water over it is that you get a much more effective transfer of heat, right? The heat comes out of the beans and goes into the cold water, so that cools them down a lot faster and stops that cooking process. These are crunchy right now. Right? If I break this, it makes a noise, right? If I eat it, chewing off camera, but it's crunchy. I wish you had crunch-o-vision. So it's crunchy. So now what you do, you get a cookie sheet and get all the water off. Spread it on the cookie sheet. Get it as loose as you can. Doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Look at the color. Look how green that is, right? It'll be green like that in March when I eat these. I'll probably eat them before then, but alright, so that's what they look like. You're going to put these in the freezer for a few hours, then you take them out. You might need some sort of, scraper type thing to get them off. Sometimes they stick on a little bit. There's 1,000 ways to deal with that, but I just find using some scraper type thing. Then you just put them in a plastic bag. I'll do a follow-up video and show you, that whole process just to be completely thorough, but that's the general idea. Hey, so it's the next day. I know I said you should take this out of the freezer after, 3 or 4 hours, and that's ideal, but you don't have to. You can get around to it when you're able. We had company and stuff to do, and then just couldn't get around to it. So now it's the next day, and everything's frozen solid. So trying to get this into a bag as quick as possible. Sometimes it sticks on a bit, so if you get a really nice thin spatula, this comes off no problem. Maybe if you grease this, it prevents it. I don't know. It doesn't matter. This technique works fine. You just scrape it all up. And you got to get it into a bag. The faster you do this, the better. And again, the reason why you do it this way is so it won't, the beans won't stick to each other. As long as you can get it in the freezer really fast. Just because of I don't know, not exactly sure what the physics is, but they will not stick to each other when you do it this way, as long as you do it real fast. Alright, so you put it in this one. I'm going to be adding more to this bag, so I'm really not done with it, so I just sort of give it a spin and put it sideways. Then I just stick it inside an old bread bag. Right? Clean bag and then not so clean bag. The bread bags are tough. I mean, you can use anything. Use whatever you want. I just like reusing things. Right? Like that, and just throw it in the freezer. I'll put that in the deep freeze downstairs, but just for right now I want to get it back in the cold as soon as possible. Anyway, that's how you do it. Quick, easy, it only takes a few minutes, and that's something I usually do while I'm preparing a meal, just because you got the oven going, you're all set up anyway. Take the excess and blanch it, put it down. And you just chip away at that all during the summer, and you can fill deep freeze right up. And if you're diligent in doing it, you will put down and secure a lot of free food for the winter that's better. I find my blanched and frozen peas taste not infinitely, but markedly better, much better than fresh beans from the grocery store in January or March. You go buy the fresh beans, they look all wilted and lousy. Whereas I take these out of the freezer, and also when you're cooking these, I mean, because they've already been blanched, the cooking time's reduced. You only need to cook them for a minute, right? You're just basically heating them up. And how I prepare them to cook, I don't throw them in like if I'm going to saute them or something like that. I like to saute them with garlic. It's how I like to cook a lot of things. All I do with the peas is I take them out of the freezer and I throw them in a bowl with cold water and just stir it around for a couple seconds. And then you strain it. That way you've defrosted the peas without heating them at all. And now they're pretty much back to the state they were in before you froze them. And you just throw them in a pan, you know, that you've got some stuff going on, and toss them around a bit, and after 1 minute they're hot and they're ready. It's very fast, and they're going to taste great. So I hope that was helpful if you didn't know that trick. If you've just been cutting your beans up and freezing them and throwing them in the freezer, I mean, that's okay if you're going to make soup out of them, but if you're, wanting to eat them like they're fresh out of the garden, this is the next best thing, and you'll find it's much better. So please like, share, subscribe if you found that useful, and check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. Until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden and your kitchen. Thanks for watching.